Hey everybody, how you doing? Dash and Dave here again. Alright, let's talk taxes. As a gig economy independent contractor, you must pay taxes on the revenue that you collect over the year. No big surprise there, folks. The U.S. tax system is a pay-as-you-go system. You know this if you've ever had a W-2 job. Your taxes are taken out with each individual paid check. As a 1099 independent contractor, which is what us gig workers are, we have no W-4s, nothing to be taken out. We get everything that we earn. Therefore, we must pay taxes on what we have earned. Now, if you've earned less than $400 in a calendar year, you don't have to worry about that. That's free and clear. But most of us are not in that boat. That's just people that went out 8 times a year to make $50 so they could go to the casino. As I mentioned, we have a pay-as-you-go or pay-as-you-earn system here in the United States. Since independent contract workers do not have taxes withheld via W-4 with each pay period, most of us are required to pay quarterly. Now, if you've researched this on the internet much like I have, you will see most of the gurus and the tax pages say you may have to pay quarterly. It's my understanding that if you owe more than $1,000 of tax, you are required to pay quarterly. This will not be a step-by-step tutorial video, but rather just to give you the information as I have found it to pass on to you so you can research and then make the determination on how you want to proceed. Okay, so as a gig worker, independent contractor, you don't have taxes held out from your pay. How do you pay your taxes? You are to estimate your taxes and pay them 4 times per year. Taxes must be paid as you earn or receive income during the year, either through withholding or estimated tax payments. If the amount of income tax withheld from your salary or pension is not enough, or if you receive income such as interest, dividends, alimony, self-employment income, capital gains, prizes, and awards, you may have to make estimated tax payments. If you are in business for yourself, you generally need to make estimated tax payments. Estimated tax is used to pay not only income tax, but other taxes such as self-employment tax and alternative minimum tax. Okay, that's really important there. Other taxes such as self-employment tax. As independent contractors, we pay both parts of the Social Security tax. You know, in a W-2 job, you pay half, the employer pays half. Here, you're both the employer and the employee. But the good thing is you get to deduct 50% of the employer's side, and we'll get into that a little bit later. Continuing on, if you don't pay enough tax through withholding and estimated tax payments, you may be charged a penalty. You also may be charged a penalty if your estimated tax payments are late, even if you are due a refund when you file your tax return. Alright, very important there. You may also be charged a penalty if your estimated tax payments are late, even if you are due a refund when you file your tax return. Who must pay estimated tax? Individuals, including sole proprietors, partners, and S-corporation shareholders, generally have to make estimated tax payments if they expect to owe tax of $1,000 or more when their return is filed. You may have to pay estimated tax for the current year if your tax was more than 0 in the prior year. See the worksheet in Form 1040-ES, Estimated Tax for Individuals, yada yada, for more details on who must pay estimated tax. Who does not have to pay estimated tax? If you receive salaries and wages, you can avoid having to pay estimated tax by asking your employer to withhold more tax from your earnings. To do this, file a new Form W-4 with your employer. There is a special line on Form W-4 for you to enter the additional amount you want your employer to withhold. So if you have a W-2 job, it is highly recommended that you adjust your withholdings on that job in order to reflect the earnings that you accrue with your gig work independent contractor job. That way you're using your W-2 withholdings to pay as you go for your independent contractor work. A link is provided for a tax withholding estimator calculator here for you to figure that number. Now, if you're a full-time gig worker like I am, the rest of this video will be solely focused on not having a W-2 job in which to have those taxes withheld. As many of you may know, I've worked the last 3 years as a UPS PVD over a 2-month period, November and December, during the heavy rush times. If I were to adjust that W-4, I probably would be taking nothing home from UPS in order to cover my gig work taxes, so that's not an option for me. I'm not so sure if I'm going to do the UPS PVD thing again. I'm going at this whole thing as if gig work economy is my sole source of revenue. I will include the link to this IRS page in the video description, by the way. In my researches of gig economy taxes, for my personal benefit and for making this video, I'd go to the search engine and type in, do gig workers have to pay taxes? Do they have to pay quarterly taxes? Found a lot of websites that had so-called calculators to help you determine how much taxes you need to pay, and every single one of them gave a different number. Some simply asked for your filing status and how much you intended to make in your gig work. Some asked for your expenses, your deductions, like your mileage. Some of them asked for the state. Some of them asked for your age. Like I said, every single one was different when it gave you the final number. Some of them were outrageous when I punched in my information and data. That's when I finally went to the IRS and said, hey, let's just go to the source and do it the hard way. I filed my taxes this year online through H&R Block. I've used H&R Block for about the last 10 years, mostly online. But I also went and saw a tax preparer the last couple years with my lawn mowing business because I wanted to dot all the I's and cross all the T's. I chatted with him a little bit earlier this year on this matter with gig economy and everything. And I told him, the first tax preparer software provider, H&R Block, TurboTax, whoever it is, that provides an accurate, honest, working tax estimator will strike gold. And my God, there's millions of us out there. I'd pay $19.95 a year to have access to this, for each individual pay period of the 4 that we have as a gig economy paying estimated taxes. And he kind of looked at me like, yeah, that's not a bad idea. So all you tax software preparer people out there, pay attention and listen up. Give us a calculator that freaking works. Alright, moving along, how to figure estimated tax. Individuals, including sole proprietors, partners, and S corporation shareholders, generally use Form 1040-ES to figure estimated tax. To figure your estimated tax, you must figure your expected adjusted gross income, taxable income, taxes, deductions, and credits for the year. When figuring your estimated tax for the current year, it may be helpful to use your income, deductions, and credits for the prior year as a starting point. Use your prior year's federal tax return as a guide. You can use the worksheet in Form 1040-ES to figure your estimated tax. You need to estimate the amount of income you expect to earn for the year. If you estimate your earnings too high, simply complete another Form 1040-ES worksheet to refigure your estimated tax for the next quarter. If you estimated your taxes too low, again, complete another Form 1040-ES worksheet to recalculate your estimated tax for the next quarter. You want to estimate your income as accurately as you can to avoid penalties. When to pay estimated taxes. For estimated tax purposes, the year is divided into 4 payment periods. You may send estimated tax payments with Form 1040-ES by mail, or you can pay online, by phone, or from your mobile device using the IRS To Go app. Visit irs.gov/payments to view all the options. Using the Electronic Federal Tax Payment System, the EFTPS, is the easiest way for individuals as well as business to pay federal taxes. Make all of your federal tax payments, including federal tax deposits, installment agreement, and estimated tax payments using the EFTPS. If it's easier to pay your estimated taxes weekly, bi-weekly, monthly, etc., you can, as long as you've paid in enough by the end of the quarter. Penalty for underpayment of estimated tax. If you didn't pay enough tax throughout the year, either through withholding or by making estimated tax payments, you may have to pay a penalty for underpayment of estimated tax. Generally, most taxpayers will avoid this penalty if they owe less than $1,000 in tax after subtracting their withholdings and credits, or if they paid at least 90% of the tax for the current year, or 100% of the tax shown on the return for the prior year, whichever is smaller. However, if your income is received unevenly during the year, I think us gig workers are going to fall into that, you may be able to avoid or lower the penalty by annualizing your income and making unequal payments. When to and how to change your withholding or pay estimated taxes. Check your withholding often and adjust it when your situation changes. To do this, fill out a new Form W-4 and give it to your employer. This is if you have a W-2 job and you're covering your gig work taxes through your W-2 job. Okay, estimated tax payments are due as follows. This is if you're paying the estimated taxes, you're a full-timer with no W-2 job. The first time is January 1 to March 31, and it is due on April 15th. The next segment is April 1 to May 31st, due on June 15th. You can see that these are not even quarter months, 3-month chunks. June 1 to August 31, due on September 15th, and then September 1 to December 31st, due on January 15th of the following year. Okay, so as I said, all those online calculators that I found, they were just garbage. So I decided to do it pencil and paper method, if you will. I downloaded all the PDFs and the instruction booklets and everything from the IRS, and I went through it step by step. Now, I created spreadsheets that duplicated what is on all the worksheets so I could plug in different numbers. You could probably download the PDFs and do it with pencil and paper if you wanted in a calculator. It's not easy, it's taxes, but in the long run, I think it'll be beneficial to you. I did it a total of 3 times to make sure that I had it right, and I still may not have it right. So this is going to be kind of quick and dirty. I'm not going to take you through it step by step. This video would be an hour long, but just showing you what I did and how I calculated things and came up with a calculator for myself in order to determine what I pay for each quote quarter. If your income is distributed unevenly, which it will be in our cases as gig workers, I will pay different amounts instead of just taking a hard number, say 40 or 50,000, figuring out the tax, splitting it into 4 or whatever, and then paying the tax that way. I would pay a different amount each and every payment period. Alright, here's the Form 1040-ES for 2022, estimated tax for individuals. Just going to kind of scroll down through this form here. It's just some of the information here that I've talked about already. Right here we see our standard deductions for 2022. Single or married filing separately, $12,950. How to figure your estimated tax, yada, yada, yada. We're coming on down here. There's the payment due dates, how to amend. A lot of information. Like I said, some of this I've covered already. If you get the PDF file, you can look through this, at your leisure. When to file your estimated tax payment voucher, blah, blah, blah. Instructions for the 2022 estimated tax worksheet. Here is the 2022 self-employment tax and deduction worksheet for lines 1 and 9 of the estimated tax worksheet. Here's the 2022 self-employment tax and deduction worksheet for lines 1 and 9 of the estimated tax worksheet. Line 1A, enter your expected income and profits subject to self-employment tax asterisk. Down at the bottom here, asterisk, your net profit from self-employment is found on Schedule C, Form 1040, line 31. Okay, let's go to the Schedule C form. Alright, here we are at Schedule C, Form 1040, profit or loss from business. This is where you're going to put in your gross receipts and then your business deductions. For us in the gig economy, that's primarily our mileage. And that would go under section part 2, car and truck expenses. Now, something I just want to touch on real quickly here, it's my understanding from my research from the IRS. If you take mileage as your business deduction, you do not take depreciation on the vehicle that you're using for the business. You choose one or the other, and then for the life of that vehicle that you own it, you must remain consistent in the deduction. So if for the first year you take the deduction of the depreciation of the vehicle as your business, you must do that for the life of the vehicle that you own it. So for us, right now as a gig worker, the mileage is probably the one that's going to net you the highest net. So take mileage, not, you know, oil changes and depreciation, etc., etc., etc. In my calculations, I didn't, you know, take off the cell phone use, taxes on the house, or, you know, for the most part, I don't think that gig workers can use the using a room in your house as an office. We really don't have office work, you know, we're not tracking inventory or something like that. Kind of a gray area there, but I didn't put anything in my expenses except my mileage. So here's my spreadsheet for my Schedule C. I'm using a gross estimated of $40,000 per year. At my $2 per mile metric, I'm going to say my mileage is 20,000 times the 56 cents per mile rate that it is here in 2021. I think it's going to go up a little bit, but anyway, that'll just be to my benefit, which comes to $11,200. Subtract that from the 40,000 gross, and my adjusted gross income as of right now is $28,800, and that goes to the 1040 Schedule 1 line 3 and the SE self-employment taxes line 2. Okay, so we're back at the 2022 self-employment tax and deduction worksheet for lines 1 and 9 of the estimated tax worksheet, which we haven't even gotten to yet. Not going to go through this step by step, but you can take a look at this here and, you know, follow the instructions, put the lines in and the numbers where they're supposed to. You know, you can see here, multiply line 2 by 92.35%, multiply line 3, you know, just follow the instructions. Down here at the bottom here, line 11, multiply line 10 by 50%. This is your expected deduction for self-employment tax on Schedule 1, Form 1040, line 15. Subtract this amount when figuring your expected AGI on line 1 of your 2022 estimated tax worksheet. This is what I was mentioning earlier, that you get to take off 50% of what you're paying into Social Security as the employer. That will be the deduction that'll come into play a little bit later. So here's the spreadsheet that I created that duplicates what we just saw over on the PDF. I'm not going to go through it step by step by step. You can pause and freeze and take a look at it if you want. We're going to now take this information over to the self-taxes worksheet. Okay, we're finally here, the self-employment tax worksheet, Schedule SE, Form 1040. By the way, as I was jumping through the hoops and trying to figure all this out, I would just put into my Google search engine IRS Schedule C or IRS Schedule SE. It's the first link that pops up. That'll take you to the proper page, and then they'll have the link for you to download the PDF files, the instruction booklets, etc., 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 for doing all of this on your own. I'm not going to include all the links because they may change, so you'll just have to, you know, put it into the search engine, and like I said, the very first link that shows up is probably going to be the IRS website, and you can find all of these forms and the instruction booklets there. Okay, again, I'm not going to go through this step by step. For lack of a better description, this is kind of mimicking the 1040 tax return, if you will, in order to figure out what your tax is that you will make payments on. Alright, so here's the spreadsheet that duplicates what we just saw over there on the IRS provided PDF file. This is going to be real ugly and try to walk you through it step by step, so I'm just going to kind of highlight it here. You know, I did this for myself and then decided to make this video. So anyway, at the very first top here, line 1 AGI, you know, that comes over here to the G column, Schedule C AGI, and then my tax deduction of $2,035, that came from the deductions on the taxes, you know, where we multiplied by 50%. Okay, so anyway, then also under column G there, my tax rate, that was right there in the forms. I kind of skipped by that, but it told me my tax rate and how much it is. My tax rate is $1,027.50 plus 12% of the amount over $10,275, which all comes down to $1,452.30. And then we come back over here to column C, my self-tax, the total tax, you know, multiply by 0.9. I think that's because you only pay taxes on 90% of your income. Anyway, I just followed the steps, duplicated everything that was over on that PDF onto this spreadsheet. Long story short, you get down to line 13 here of the spreadsheet, which is actually line 15 of the self-tax worksheet, and it says enter 1/4 of line 14A, which comes to $1,242.29, which is my estimated quarterly tax payment on my gross estimate of $40,000 after my business expenses and after my standard deduction. This is the tax that I owe each quarter. Okay, so let's simplify this just a little bit. So based on these numbers, on these calculations, on a $40,000 gross salary revenue, my tax liability is $4,969. Let's just call it $5,000. $5,000 is 12.5% of $40,000. Alright, so we're going to jump over here. This is the spreadsheet for the first quarter of 2022 with all the gigs that I have completed. And looking at the lower right hand corner here, my Fed tax rate I have now inputted, 12.5%. And when we come up to the taxes here, we see that total is $1,047.62 because I am nowhere near the rate of $40,000 annually at this time. If my calculations are correct, and God, I hope they are, then this April 15th here, I will make a payment to the feds, $1,047. I'll probably round it up maybe a percent or two and give myself just a little leeway. And if everything's perfect, then I'll get just a little bit back when it's all said and done. Now, what happens if you don't pay your estimated taxes as a gig economy worker? Well, then you're just going to file a return at the end of the year and come up with a big paycheck to them, plus penalties and interest. I have tried to find out what those numbers are on the penalties and interest, and again, it's on the internet there. I'm just seeing it all over the map, and even the IRS wasn't real clear on it. If anybody has any information on that, please share it. I've seen something like 3% of the total or 5% per month, yada yada yada. It's probably just in your best interest to calculate a little bit of it out and send it on in every payment period. And of course, if you have a W-2 job, adjust that W-4 to reflect your gig work taxes. One last note, don't forget about the state's cut. I live in Iowa. We do have personal income taxes. So down in the lower right-hand corner in the light purple there, I've got a 4% state tax rate. I'm actually in the 6% club, but hopefully that'll whittle down a little bit with deductions and my exemptions and everything. So that's what I've decided to use for the state is 4%, which we can see is $335.24 for the first quarter. They have an online e-file pay system. I will pay that to the state. So my total tax outlay, Fed and state, for the first quarter of 2022 was $1,382.86. In my monthly spreadsheet tracking my gig work revenue here, I'm just using a flat 17% as my tax rate. I don't have it broke down between the feds and the state. So it's 12.5 for the feds, 4 for the state. That's actually 16.5. So I just rounded it up to 17% that I am withholding and putting in a separate savings account for my tax liability. I realize the timing of this video is kind of piss poor. It is April 5th as I make this video and get it posted up to YouTube, which is only about 10 days away from April 15th, tax day. If you're new to the gig economy and you found this video and you went, oh shit, I haven't done any of this. Okay, number one, start saving that back. Mr. Blake Moore over at Moore Financial, the gig working guy, he lives in Utah. They have a 5% tax rate. He has always recommended, and he has shown on his videos, that he holds back 15% for taxes. That's probably a pretty good overall metric. He has said before that he makes about $50,000 on his gig work. So, he has other things too, but as far as the gig work is concerned, he says, I always recommend that you hold back 15% for your taxes. And I ultimately came up with 12.5% plus the 4% that I'm using for the state. That's pretty darn close. I don't know exactly how to tell you how much to save back. Do what I did, go to the IRS, get the forms, pencil and paper it, try your best. It's not easy. I've done this 3 times. Like I said, I hope I've got it right. I've read some stuff on the internet, and again, take this with a huge shot of whiskey, that the first year that you're a full-time gig employee, you don't have to file quarterly taxes, but the next year you do. They give you that leeway. That's some of the information I've read. I don't know if that's true or not, to be 100% honest with you. You can't believe everything or anything on the internet, kids. And depending on what your gross revenue is for the year, if you don't mind paying hundreds of dollars in late penalties and then doing it right next year, I mean, that's all up to you. And, I am a single guy, so if you're married and you're filing jointly, all of this that I've described to you today may not mean anything. Talk to your tax professional, find one, go to the IRS, fill out these forms, it's up to you to make this right. And I wish to repeat, H&R Block, TaxSlayer, TurboTax, whoever you are, come up with an online calculator for us gig workers in order to figure out our estimated taxes. Not PDFs. I'm talking online, punch in the numbers. Charge us $19.95 a year to access it for the whole year so we can do this 4 times a year. It's a gold mine. Get it done. Alright guys and gals, that's all I've got for you today. Hopefully you can take something from this video and put it to use for yourself. Thanks for coming along for the ride, and hope to see you next time.